This man, Jeff Winder, is a man who attacked me at a press conference. So if he's talking about free speech and endangering people, I mean, he attacked me in full view of state police who did nothing. They were also told to stand down at that press conference. They almost had me killed. There were so many people surrounding me trying to attack me. As far as what Jeff Sessions and Paul Ryan are saying, I mean, there's a distinction between Paul Ryan, who I would say is a traitor. He is not a Trump Republican. He is an old-style Republican, which does not have the cojones to fight for his people, that thinks that that the country would be fine as with, you know, low taxes if low taxes and the entire population of the country was full of Muslims and illegal immigrants. He has no loyalty to the traditional people of the country. I would say Jeff Sessions, a lot of these other folks, I mean, I don't know their motivations, but people are scared.
He's a Trump guy. Jeff Sessions.
But he's scared. These people are scared because they don't want to be labeled with the social stigma of being a racist, even when they're not. You know, the liberals call everybody racist. They used to call Ron Paul racist, and now they call me racist. They call everybody racist because that's what they do, is they get you to be intimidated and back down because you don't want to lose your job. You don't want people to harass or hurt your family. You don't want people to think badly of you. I am somebody who is willing to fight that fight and to face that stigma because somebody has to.
Why does somebody have to?
Because otherwise there will be an ethnic cleansing of white people. That is already occurring, like I'm saying. We are being reduced from 85% of the population down to less than 50% of the population. We have a right to exist just like any other people would exist. I think that if you look historically, there are other figures who have had the same motivation. You might look at Crazy Horse, the Native American chieftain who was fighting to preserve his people against the white man. You know, I'm not saying that who was right and who was wrong in that situation. It's a shame that we don't have Native Americans in the numbers that we do. It was part of what was going on in that time, where a lot of people were fighting in wars of conquest. So just because something happened wrong to them now doesn't mean, like these leftists think, that it's okay to enact vengeance against white people and decimate their populations as revenge. I think that Crazy Horse had the right idea. He was willing to fight an unjust system on behalf of his people when everyone else around him, the other Native American leaders, were constantly appeasing. They constantly said, no, let's make deals with the white man. Let's do this, let's do that. And now look where it's got them. They're barely around. They had open borders. They had free immigration. And now look where it's got them. They're in reservations, and they've had their country taken from them. And that is exactly what's going to happen to white people in the United States and Europe.
Are you the alt-right?
No, I mean, the alt-right is many people, and there are many different beliefs.
Are you
in
one of the
alt-right.
people in the alt-right, would you say?
Yeah, I guess so. In the sense that the alt-right at its simplest is identity politics for white people. It is white people standing up for themselves and willing to fight. So that's what I am.
I want to read you something else. This is from someone who works at the Southern Poverty Law Center, and she was monitoring your as you were organizing this, and she says, it was astounding to see it go from 100 people saying that they were going to go to 300, 500, 700, 800 to raising money on online platforms to facilitate that. What was going on here? You attracted a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a message that resonates with people. Folks are so sick of this politically correct, anti-white, anti-family, anti-male, like pushing the gay agenda and the transsexuals and all that stuff. People are so sick of that, and they want to stand up for themselves. They just don't know how to do it because...
It's called the ballot box, isn't it?
Well, people also need to demonstrate. They need to show that they're not afraid. One thing that's going on is this culture of intimidation and fear towards white people has led it so that they are willing to vote for somebody like Donald Trump or for a policy like Brexit at the ballot box but they won't admit to it in online polling because they're afraid of being called a racist, a bigot, or whatever. So they realize that the political correctness has gotten out of control and they want to do something about it. The Southern Poverty Law Center, no one takes the Southern Poverty Law Center seriously except leftists. They are an explicitly anti-white group. They only attack what I would say are uppity white people, people who are standing up for themselves. They are a hate group.
You mentioned Donald Trump a couple of times. So you feel like potentially his victory in 2016 was the result of, I assume you voted for him. Is that an accurate assumption, would you say?
Yeah.
That perhaps your comrade in arms, if I may use the expression, perhaps also voted for him. Would you credit his success potentially to support from people like you?
Absolutely. It's undeniable that the online activism and people in the alt-right and in the alternative media more generally allowed Donald Trump to win. I mean, we fought extremely hard for him on Twitter, on Facebook, on 4chan, on all the message boards, on Reddit. There's no doubt that we brought Trumpian right-wing conservatism to a new generation.
And what did you think of the first statement he made with regard to the events in Charlottesville?
I mean, I think he was correct when he said there was violence on both sides. It's outrageous that people have tried to make him take that back, because anybody who watches the video can see, like, Black Lives Matter walking around with aerosol cans, like, used as flamethrowers. They're wearing masks. They're carrying baseball bats and other weapons. I think Donald Trump's subsequent statements are influenced by the pressure that was put on him by these fake media narratives who have not taken into account the federal lawsuit, the fact that the city did not implement any safety procedures, the fact that the governor of Virginia gave stand-down orders to the state police and allowed people to fight.
So you think there are a lot of people in the closet, so to speak, who feel the same way you do, who just aren't going to come out and say they feel the same way you do?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what was going on with this movement. That's why we shook the rafters of power. We made these people so scared that they demanded an apology from Donald Trump. There is no doubt that there are some very powerful interests within our society. There are different identity groups, you know, like CARE, the Muslim activist group, AIPAC, the Jewish Israeli group. These people control the banks. They have a disproportionate influence in the Supreme Court, in Congress, in political donations. So when these folks get upset about white people standing up for themselves, they can create a big fuss.
So, but Jewish people aren't white people, is that what you're saying?
That's up for other people to decide. I would say they are a distinct ethnic group from most European white people. I mean, certainly there are a lot of Jews who are mixed with European peoples, but the Jews are a distinct ethnic group. And they are, I would say, overrepresented within the halls of power. It's not like every Jewish person is, leading the Illuminati or something, but certainly over the last few decades, almost every chair of the Federal Reserve, which controls our banking policy, has been Jewish. 3 of the Supreme Court justices right now are Jewish. 25% of the class in Harvard is Jewish, and they're only 2% of the population. It's incredible how much money and power they have as an interest group. They, I think, spent approximately 40%. They spend about 40% of the political donations in our government. So that's a big thing for 2% of the population to be paying for 40%.
You went to UVA, I'm sure you know your history. One of the most famous financiers of the Revolutionary War was Jewish. So, I mean, it seems like they're pretty patriotic as far as that goes.
Well, it's not like you can say any group is all the same because of their ethnicity. I think that certainly there are characteristics among different groups that lead to them to behave certain ways, but I wouldn't say just because somebody is Jewish they are going to be an elite financier. That's ridiculous. But you could also say that the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia was a primarily Jewish movement, and Marxism in general has been led by a lot of Jewish folks. So, but yeah, certainly there have been Jewish patriots and there have been Jewish communists, just like other groups. White people have had communists and white people have had patriots.
But Jews are not white people, essentially. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, in this context, I'm speaking of them as a distinct ethnic group. I would say that they are distinct from people of European ancestry.
A lot of the Jews, though, I'm aware of, are actually from places in Europe, like...
Yeah, there's a lot of Jews have been in Europe for a long time, but I mean, there are genetic differences, certainly, just like there are genetic differences between sub-Saharan Africans and, I don't know, the people of Japan. There are differences between groups, and there has been a lot of separation in communities that were like specifically Jewish, so they would have children with other Jews, and that's something that's still very prominent in Orthodox communities to this day, is they're trying to preserve the ethnic Jewish genetics of their...
Resist all development. Unless bureaucracy is constantly resisted, it breaks down
You were, I don't know if you're aware or not, but David Duke was at your rally. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw him there.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think he came as a participant, and he's somebody who doesn't advocate violence. He has controversial opinions. He speaks a lot about Judaism and nepotism and the elite levels of power, and so you know, he's very controversial for that reason. But you know, I mean, he had a right to come just like anybody else. I don't welcome any association with KKK or Nazi or anything, but I as far as I know, he came as a peaceful participant, and he came independent of his own motivation.
Unite the right. What does that mean to you?
Well, the original idea for the thing was that we were going to unite alt-right people, alt-light people who are a little bit less of identitarians but are still sort of fed up with identity politics. We're going to unite American patriots. We're going to unite Confederate heritage people. And the gist of it is that some of our controversial speakers in the alt-right, and some of them are so-called white nationalists, and the people who were not were afraid to speak with them for fear of being labeled racist or whatever. So some folks backed out of it, and that led to the event being a little bit more right-wing than it otherwise would have been.
So it was kind of accidental that it ended up being really right-wing, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was a little more right-wing than I had originally intended it to be.
One more thing. This is the Heritage Foundation, a conservative organization. They have a magazine, and a reporter was actually there in Charlottesville. And he says, even calling the gathering of a couple hundred people a movement would be a stretch. The overwhelming media attention given to these fascist, racist groups, even before violence took place, served as a conduit for the views of this handful of people. Your thoughts?
Well, I would say that it was more than 200, that's for sure. I mean, that's one of the things that they do, is try and diminish our numbers. I don't have an actual count. I don't think anybody does, but it was certainly at least 400. And no, it's a very powerful movement, and our numbers online and throughout the country are very strong. The Heritage Foundation, I don't know much about them. They're sort of like baby boomer conservative, old guard people that really are not willing to fight for who we are as a people. They're willing to just allow illegal immigration to come in and replace us, sort of like...
This is the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these boomer conservative organizations and think tanks are really scared of being called racist. They're cowards, to be honest, just like Paul Ryan.
Is Jeff Sessions a coward?
I don't think so. I think Jeff Sessions is a good man who's been put in a difficult spot.
Corey Stewart, candidate for the Senate, is he on your side? Is he sympathetic, do you think?
Corey Stewart is distinct from me, but he is a brave man.
So
He stood up for the monuments, and he's done so bravely, and he's never backed down or been afraid of people calling him a racist the way that Paul Ryan, who should be replaced by Paul Nealon, for sure, or pretty much anybody would be better than Paul Ryan other than Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi.
What is the future for your organization? Where do you go from here?
Well, then my number one priority right now is countering this fake media narrative that's come up around the rally, calling it a neo-Nazi rally, saying that
But there were Nazis there, weren't there?
I didn't invite any Nazis, certainly. And I think that the other thing is that people have to realize that in the youth culture online, there's a lot of people who use Nazi or offensive imagery because they are doing it in a reflexive way, where people are, as young white men, are so used to being called racist, Nazi, whatever, that some of them just own it and are like, screw you, that's what I am. But it doesn't literally mean that people are trying to go and reenact 1930s Germany. But whatever the case may be, I don't like that association, and I've never encouraged that association within my organizations.
I don't think I have any more questions. Do you have, is there anything I didn't ask about that you would like to say to set the record straight, or anything else?
Well, just going forward, to finish my response to your previous question, is that we're going to work on bringing the city of Charlottesville to court and making them pay for this monumental disaster that they have created by covering up the truth and trying to use this event to portray average Americans standing up for their rights as evil people, and then using that as a cudgel to attack the president. And I really do hope administration officials, if they're not able to directly engage with me because of all that's been going on, I hope that they will at least understand my side of things, look into Mayor Mike Signer, look into Vice Mayor Wes Bellamy, look into the Governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, and you will see this conspiracy that they have created to attack the right-wing and conservative movement in America. These people have to be exposed because this was a terrible and tragic event, not only for the people who were hurt and the lives that were lost, but because they intentionally created those circumstances for political gain, and I don't think that they have any regrets about it. Wes Bellamy was laughing and joking one day after this event when or a couple days after, when I went to do my press conference. He was laughing because these jackals have gotten exactly what they want, and we cannot allow them to get away with it. They have to be investigated. They have to be exposed.
You mentioned the statues. A thought occurs to me, which is, I think that the one in Charlottesville was put up, what, in the 20s or something, or?
I don't remember exactly.
Anyway, it's not been quite 100 years, but for a long time, nobody thought anything about these. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, what changed to get people so upset and so exercised over just an inanimate object that, you know, has been there for a long time? What do you suppose changed in the culture?
They elected bad leaders. You had liberals in a city which is basically the capital of white guilt electing a black supremacist mayor, Wes Bellamy, who had these awful things to say about white people.
He was mayor?
Yeah, he's vice mayor.
Vice mayor.
He is vice mayor, and he said all kinds of things like
was he mayor at the time then? Was he actually mayor?
Yeah,
before?
he's been the one who's pushing to remove the statue.
But he's vice mayor now. Was he mayor at one of previous time?
No. The mayor is Mike Signer during this whole process. The vice mayor has been Wes Bellamy. But this vice mayor Wes Bellamy and his cohorts, Kristen Zakos and others, had a lot of racially tinged, hateful things to say about white people. They wanted to tear down this statue as part of this social justice agenda. Before that, the city council was focused on boring things, which is what they should have been focused on. They were focused on water reservoirs, they were focused on road construction, they were focused on infrastructure. Now you go into a Charlottesville city council meeting, everything is about homosexuals, trannies, blacks, illegal immigrants, and creating sanctuary cities. They said that Charlottesville is a sanctuary city and capital of the resistance against Trump. So don't be fooled by these people. These are not good people. These are far left communists. And when the conservative media goes and plays their narrative, we're playing right into their hands.
You mentioned Trump. One of the things he said about your demonstration was that this was evil.
No, that's not true. It was just a demonstration. It was supposed to be a march. It was supposed to be speeches. These are all constitutionally protected things, and these are things that people in the civil rights era were able to do. Blacks were able to do, and others were able to do, and that's all we were trying to do, is exercise our constitutional rights and have a civil rights movement. And we had violent opposition, just like the Ku Klux Klan gave violent opposition to the blacks in the civil rights era. The same thing happened to us.